Welcome. Hi, I'm Ida Reis, certified divorce lending professional, and this interview is part of the Divorce Literacy Series from the Divorce Lending Association. And I have with me today Liz Reineke. Welcome, Liz.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You're quite welcome. Would you kindly tell us a little bit about your background and your practice?
Sure. So again, my name is Liz Reineke. I'm a family law attorney in Howard County, Maryland. I've been practicing just under about 5 years.
Okay. And if you had to state, where you would end up practicing in family law, where would that be? What areas?
The typical issues, divorce and custody and child support, alimony, and then sometimes adoptions.
Okay. Okay. And in our conversation while we were, before we got started, you talked about de facto, is it called de facto custody? Is that the right term?
A de facto parent, yes.
Parent, de facto parent. Okay. Could you tell us a little bit about that? How that
Sure.
works? Yeah.
Sure. So it's kind of a unique and a new thing here in Maryland and all across the country ever since gay marriage was legalized with same-sex couples. Obviously, if you have two people of the same sex, not both of them can be biological parents. And if something happens, then there was a case in Maryland called Conover that was decided that established the ability of a third party, such as a spouse of a same-sex couple or a grandparent or someone with a relationship to the child that's not necessarily the child's biological parent, that can come in and have standing and stand in the same shoes as a biological parent in a custody case or a divorce.
Okay. That's good. That's good information to know. It's fairly new in Maryland. So when was that adopted, that whole part? When did you see that develop?
I think it was 2015, but because it's so new, the courts take a little bit to catch up.
Mm.
So there's still, I mean, as we speak today, there's still cases coming out, kind of addressing and building on the former case law.
Okay, so when you say sometimes it's a grandparent, so does it often happen that a grandparent is actually legally gets custody, or what happens in those cases? What do you see most of?
Yeah, very often. I think the number will probably depend on which part of the state of Maryland that you're in. I think one thing that I've seen a lot of with the advent of the opioid epidemic, there's a lot of people, and not necessarily just grandparents. It could be, a family member coming in to take custody of a child because the parent may not be what we deem as unfit, based on the substance abuse. So it's happening, and it's all across the state.
So the term de facto, just to increase understanding on that, does that mean, is that a temporary custody while the whatever is happening is until it gets resolved, or is that something that's permanent? What does that mean?
Typically it's permanent, and that's one of those things that's still kind of ever evolving as the courts kind of navigate through this new issue. But if you are deemed to be a de facto parent, then for eternity, you stand in the same shoes as biological parent.
Okay, that's good to know. And so that's a part of your practice. It sounds like a pretty big part in it. And you indicated that you do other types of divorce cases. Can you kind of elaborate on what does that look like for the listener? Can you tell us what that looks like?
Sure. I mean, it could look, I mean, every case is different. So it's hard to really there's no cookie cutter kind of, every case goes the same way. They all have different issues. Each case is unique, but I mean, they could involve issues of child custody, of child support. The parties could, they could be very young, had a very short marriage. I have a couple cases right now where I've got a client who's in his 70s. So, and when, depending on age and stuff like that, it really will kind of set the issues apart. I mean, we're always learning every day. You run into something new that you didn't know yesterday. And even attorneys that have been doing this for 30 plus years, there's just so much to know.
Yes. Yes. I think we probably can all say that in our respective professions, that you never know everything. If you had advice for someone kind of just starting or in the middle of this going down this path, what would you tell them?
The first piece of advice I would say is if you don't have a therapist or someone that you can talk to, get one. It is very much a marathon. It is not a sprint. And therapists are a lot cheaper than attorneys. And you really got to buckle up because the emotional toll it's a lot. It's very overwhelming. And I don't think most people could get through it without, an expert like a therapist or a counselor to help them. And for that reason also, so they don't go and don't talk to your friends and your family and social media and everything is out there. So keep it contained and keep it to your therapist.
Yes, yes, trying to sort out those feelings. I don't think, there's so much emotional upheaval in in this kind of an event in your life that you almost need to have somebody there to help you sort through it one layer at a time, right? I mean, that's
And high emotions drive up costs too.
yeah, that's a very good point, an excellent point. Okay, and if you had to describe a really gratifying case, would you have an example you could give us on something that maybe you've kind of dealt with fairly recently that you would like to talk about for a minute? Or
Um,
anything?
I, I can't think of anything very specific. I mean, I think that, I tell people all the time, there's no winners in this line of work. Everybody
Mhm.
loses all the time. And especially if you're going to court and you're having a judge make a determination of who your child's going to live with. Um, but adoptions, I think, are my most fun and like the only fun thing that we do. Everybody's happy then. I have had anytime a client is happy, I think it's a gratifying case because, like I just said, there's really no winner. You could have the best outcome in the world, and you're still losing.
Yes, 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 yes. So when you do adoptions, is that always sort of connected to divorce or just general adoptions?
It's general. I see and I do the most of step parent adoptions.
Mm-hmm.
If the biological parent is deceased or they're not in the child's life, the step parents can come in and puts them kind of like de facto in the same, full custodial rights as the adoptive parent.
Oh, okay, that's great. That's great to know too. Do you have any final thoughts to share? Anything that we didn't cover that you'd like to share with our listeners?
So no matter what you do, moving forward, if you're not sure if you're ready to make the next step or not, always consult with an attorney that's experienced in family law. You always say that you probably wouldn't go to a pediatrician for brain surgery. It's pretty specialized field, and there's a lot of moving parts. And don't try to do it yourself. I will say that I think probably 20% of my cases currently, and since I've been practicing, have been fixing errors that were made when people don't want to hire an attorney because they think they can do it themselves. But there is no margin of error, no room for error. So even if you're just consulting with someone, make sure you know your rights before you move forward and make a decision that you might regret later on. And you'll spend a lot more money trying to fix it in the end.
Yes, that's great advice. Okay, well, could you let us know how we would best get in touch with you? And the
Sure, you
web
can visit.
address?
I work for Amos Parrott Law, and you can go to our website. It's AP, A's and Apple, P's and Paul, MDlaw.com.
Thank you so much. We so appreciate your valuable time today.
Yeah, thank you
And
for having me.
yes, thank you.